Oh, hey everyone. Happy Thursday. Welcome to Virtual Veg Fest Live. It always surprises me that I go live even though I hit the button. It comes up really fast. So, super excited about today, but first let's talk about the Plant-Based Spotlight, which is the new magazine by Plant-Based Network, which the second edition came out. And you can totally look at that at plantbasedspotlight.com. You can follow the little scroll on the bottom, which will tell you where to go and check it out. And Plant Based Network being our partner. And of course, virtualvegfest.com. If you can go and shop and support our vendors, that'd be great because they need to get through this pandemic, like all of us too. So, Eleni Vlachos is here today. So, Eleni is someone I met when I moved to North Carolina, and it's over 9 years that I've been here. And of course, he's not in North Carolina anymore because they moved and went to New York City, and then they went to Pennsylvania, which they're in Philly now. But super cool people at the best parties after Thanksgiving. Amazing, not just artist, activist, musician, writer, great cook as well. Made a whole smorgasbord of food for Thanksgiving, and we would all go and eat, even though we just ate a full day of Thanksgiving food. We'd go eat some more, and it's just the coolest house too. So really pretty honored that she said yes to come on and talk with us today. And we're just going to have a conversation. It's going to go into probably a ton of different topics that we were just kind of discussing as to what it's going to be. But I'm going to throw it at Eleni so she can share who she is. And there she is. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me here. Hope you enjoy my virtual background, everyone. I should have prepared a better virtual background, but I've got the standard Skype background now. But yeah, I'm happy to be here. And one of the things, it's obviously been tough during COVID for so many people, and some more than others. But one of the kind of good things that I've seen is just the ability of a lot of people to persevere and still kind of, get things done, like this virtual Veg Fest, and still hosting events and things like that. So I'm happy to see that this is happening. And yeah, I'm happy to be here. And yeah, I don't know if you had a specific question for me, but I'm happy to talk about whatever. But yeah, lately I've been working on writing a novel, which is the first time and doing that, and it's very difficult and but fun, rewarding, and also writing some short stories. And I'm always kind of thinking of what just I guess angles on how to sort of encourage compassion and but not with it being sort of like hitting anybody with a hammer over the head with it, but just sort of like highlighting issues of the fact that we should consider animals in our circles of compassion, things like that. So that's been really fun and crazy making.
Well, first, Caitlin. So Caitlin moved away too, but Caitlin says yes, Eleni rocks. So it's really
Thanks,
cool.
Caitlin.
Yeah, really glad you're here. Another fellow musician for you. And of course, if anyone has any questions or comments, please feel free to put them into the little comment box, and we'll definitely address them. We're here until 4:30 today, so let's start talking. So I read a couple of your articles, right? I'm going to call it Big Mouth because that's what's in my head now.
You big talker,
big mouth. Big talker, big mouth, right? So youbigtalker.com, and I read a couple of the articles. One was about Trump that brought me to go, wait a second, she should totally come on. But then, I read about making soy, making tofu and soy milk, and your exercise routine during a pandemic, which is really neat. And she's glad to be here too. Love this Veg Fest Live platform. Thanks, Caitlin. And I would love for you to just share where you get your ideas from, what you write, and everyone should go and check out what Eleni writes. But if you can share where you get your ideas from and some of what those ideas are, that'd be really cool because they're pretty progressive and you tie them into animal rights, which is also pretty cool. In everything that you write, it seems it's well, here's this thing that's going on in the world, but here's this part that kind of brings in animal rights and caring about the planet as well. So go for it.
Yeah, no, I thank you so much. I think that, there's so much connected, and I think we've all, talked about intersectionality and the importance of including people, and just some of these issues are, important to include in your work. So In terms of the You Big Talker, aka Big Mouth site or idea, about 10, actually now it's been 14 years ago, I was sitting in Greece and I just thought, if I were to condense my life, what are the most important things to create sort of a happy life, or as a friend said, a least miserable existence, which is probably more accurate. And so I just kind of drilled down on maybe about four things that were necessary for a good life. And so I started to ask other people too, once I found what mine were, what theirs were, what's important to you. And it seemed like a common theme is, community, other people, and friends and family. And that's sort of one of the most important things to people. And for me, it was also, not just doing things for myself, but, how can I help and end or reduce suffering? And so along those lines, one of my mantras is fun, and fun is the opposite of suffering. And so when I think about doing activism or doing things on behalf of people or animals, I always try to think of like, how can we make this fun and engaging rather than sort of like a PSA or something. So when, I co-founded the Vegan Challenge back in 2010, that was kind of one of the things that sort of taught me a little bit about that by my co-founder, who was, not even veg. She's an omnivore, but she had the idea of making it a contest. And I think those kinds of things, rather than just asking for something, you make it fun for people if you can. It's not always possible when we're protesting and things like that. But yeah, so You Big Talker kind of came out of that. And I think most of the things to your question about what I choose to write, I wish I wrote more. I really need to be better about focusing on that. But when I write, it's usually, as an editor once said, you write something about that pisses you off. So what's making you mad? And that's what usually would get you to write. And so a couple years ago, I wrote an article that I'd been wanting to write for a while. And it was this idea around if you're veg and you go to your family's home and they serve you something, or, say it's somebody that's older that doesn't understand why you'd be veg, that it's rude to refuse their meat or whatever foods they're giving you. And so my argument there was, that you can still have love within your family and friends and refuse the food. That's okay. But I think a lot of people have difficulty with that. So that's kind of where that came from. And I think I still see that people struggle with that. So a lot of these articles came from that. I had some other ones on immigration, kind of based on my own father's story coming to this country from Greece. And the most recent one on Trump, it was sort of comparing, I see on Facebook a lot of people say things like, if you're going to vote for Trump, defriend me, and yet, a lot of these people are still supporting an industry that, behaves pretty much exactly like him, caring only for the bottom line in the most egregious ways. And so in the article, I kind of highlight, the actual Animal Agricultural Alliance, for instance, and how they care about their shareholders, as they state on their website, but the essential workers who are at the meat plants can just keep working. And so I think it's all connected, all of that. So when I write, it's usually because something makes me upset, but again, doing it in a way that hopefully has some humor and hopefully has some interesting bits so that people aren't just hit over the head with your point.
No, it's been great. I mean, from what I've read. And one thing that you touched on that some people might not know what we're talking about is the challenge in Durham. I mean, it's gotten a lot of news. I mean, Veg News picked it up, and of course, Leanne carried on the torch. Begrudgingly, I think a little bit, because it's a ton of work.
So much work. She did such a good job.
Yeah. Yes. I mean, It's pretty incredible. I mean, please share about what you started so that if other people want to do it in their cities, they can decide if they want to do a ton of work.
Yeah, I think the key is, so the last one that I did was 2016, before we moved. And that year it was especially done well because of the people that I had helping me, including Leanne, including Caitlin, and Aaron, and so many people that had helped at the time, and Candace. And these were people that, really and Natasha, these people took the ball and just ran with it. And in fact, I think Natasha organized one in Raleigh.
Yep.
Yeah. And so I think the key is, if you're going to do it, to have a really strong team and really clear roles about who's handling what. And we have created, spreadsheets kind of showing here's the typical things you would have to do, as I'm sure you probably have times 10 for VegFest. And it did, so things have been complicated, of course, by COVID, but Vegan Outreach had received funding to fund a position for a year to help launch this nationwide. And this was inspired by Bethany, who runs the vegan challenges in California. And she's done more than we did. She does them every year. So she was inspired by seeing ours and then started her own. And she's done an amazing job over there. So they had funding for that. So I'm not sure. It might be on hold right now. But it is something I was thinking that could be possible to do virtually, because you could have a virtual challenge with takeout. And so restaurants, could theoretically still participate, and you can still promote it on socials. So that is something people can still do, I'm sure, even during COVID.
Oh, definitely. And just so the challenge, right now my dogs might bark. The challenge is that you go to restaurants, you reach out to restaurants on your side and ask them, hey, will you put like a awesome vegan appetizer, main meal, and or dessert on your menu for a month? And we're going to put this out to the whole community, and they're going to come and they're going to eat over the course of the month. And then they're going to vote on what their favorite was. And then the winner is going to get, like, chef-wise and restaurant-wise, is going to get prizes. And obviously it being out there that you created this amazing dish, and then we're going to try to persuade you to keep it on your menu and put more vegan stuff on your menu, because you're going to see how well it went. Coming from a person that actually like literally went to 6 restaurants in one night.
Wow, that might be the record.
Like, it was almost over. So I was like, let's keep going. It was so filling.
It's for the cause.
It was for the cause, yes.
Nice. Yeah, and thank you for explaining it. See, that's one of the, here I am assuming people would even know what it was. Yeah, no, that's great. You did a great job. Yeah, and I think what was interesting to me is just to see, especially in Durham at that time, how many restaurants were surprised about the demand, and just how much business they got out of it. And so that created sort of demand from the restaurants in subsequent years when they would, want to participate or ask us about participating. So I would say, 85% probably the restaurants did a really great job and coming up with something really creative and pushing their own boundaries, which is what cooking should be about, an adventure. And as I've said before, like, people often see it as sort of a subtraction problem, but really it's an addition problem when you think about going plant-based, because you're adding all of these textures and flavors and things you haven't tried before and combinations, and you're not relying on, sort of like the old traditional things that people rely on, like eggs. I'm like, eggs are superfluous. You don't really need them for good baked goods or whatever, for anything really. But yeah, so it was really rewarding to see a lot of the restaurants keep the items on the menu too, like Gugelhof and some of the others. And I think that's where at least part of the philosophy that I have comes in about human nature and behavior change, which is super interesting to read things on that if people are interested, on behavioral economics and how that works, because that really ties into your activism. But if you ask a small thing, just something little, people are more likely to do it. And then they see it's easy, and then they'll keep doing it, kind of like Meatless Mondays or something like that. But yeah, so I think that sort of ties into that, because we're just asking the restaurants to do it for a month. So that doesn't seem like a huge commitment, especially if you do it months in advance, which you should, because it takes a while to plan it.
Yes, exactly. And Caitlin said that she loved that the restaurants noticed the hype and demand and kept a lot of the menu items on their menus after the challenge was over. Like we said, like Gugelhof, which if you hadn't pronounced it, I would have pronounced it wrong, is in Durham, and it's a German restaurant that is very meat-centric based, and they have a whole vegan menu. They do a vegan brunch. They've completely embraced after being part of the challenge.
Yeah, and that was in 2016. My friend Laura Azar, the artist who handled the graphic art, the beautiful artwork for the challenge that year, she knew somebody there and got them on board. And so I think that's what's helpful too about having more people kind of help out. And I'm pretty sure I probably didn't pronounce their name right either. But yeah, just seeing that sort of like trickle down effect of creating this demand and then showing that it exists. And they did it purely from initially a numbers perspective. They said, well, it adds up. Like, people are ordering these things, and we need to serve them. So I think a lot of times, even though we definitely want to lead with the heart and all of that, and that's important too, a lot of times it's dollars. And so if you see, like, over the last 20 years, soy milk, it's everywhere. It's not necessarily because people started caring about cows. It's more so it sells. People are buying it. So I think that we do need to consider that. And I think that's more commonly known now that we're seeing products like Beyond Meat and Impossible and really do well, and Rebellious Foods, and there's so many different products out there now. It's amazing.
It's absolutely incredible, and all the different plant-based milks, and of course Just Egg, and the different plant-based mayos. I mean, there's just so much food that the restaurants really, if they whatever they want to do, they could easily do vegan or plant-based because it's just out there. Like you said, eggs, you don't actually have to use eggs, but you know what? Now you can use a follow your heart egg, or you can use Just Egg, depending on what kind of modem or what you're choosing to make, whether you're frying a food and you need to, oh, don't do it. If you're frying a food and sorry, but live, frying a food and you just want to, and you want to coat it, so you want to get a batter, follow your heart egg is fantastic. And then I made a quiche the other day with the Just Egg. It was unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable.
I love it. Yeah, it's there's no shortage of products and things, and and it's an ongoing sort of educational campaign, I guess, for restaurants, because even in Philly, which is super vegan friendly, and most non-vegan veg restaurants have options like seitan or other things, or Beyond Meat or Impossible. Yesterday I was going to hang out with a friend, and a couple places that looked really nice, outdoor seating, spaced out, all of that, had very little options. I think one of them had a V on their menu for vegan, but then you look and there was absolutely like nothing coded as V, but they did have the code breakdown in case you needed that. But I wrote them a nice email and kind of encouraged some more hearty options, and one did write back. But yeah, I think things like the challenge are sort of a way to do that a little bit more on a larger level. And here in Philly, we have so many active, great people that are working on things like that. They have a restaurant week, a vegan restaurant week, and things. So. But yeah, if anybody ever wants to reach out or ask questions, please feel free to on the challenge. And there's a lot of other great, like Leanne, resources and organizers that can help out with that too.
Oh, definitely. You've got Carla.
Yeah.
In Philly.
Them.
Yes.
They are awesome. Yeah, they run the V Marks the Shop.
Yep.
V Marks the Shop. Yeah, and we shop there regularly. Takeaway now because of the COVID, but they're amazing. They do so much community engagement, and I think that's kind of like what you're doing. That's like so important, is to have fun events that also kind of help the cause, and also create community of people who can be together and support one another. And and hopefully, I'm not sure what the status of vegan drinks is here, but that was one of the things I really enjoyed in Durham, because it brought people together, and you don't exclude people who aren't veg, because you want everybody to come in and just, hang out. So, I think things like that are such a key. And I actually have a name for the philosophy. I've written an op-ed about it, but it hasn't gotten placed yet. I need to go back to that, but it's the Spoonful of Sugar. It's called, and it's basically like Mary Poppins said, is when you're doing something, you need to infuse the fun into it, which is the sweetness into the bitter part, and then that helps kind of people accept it. And it's just true of so many things. Once you see it, it's hard not to see it.
Right. It's basically saying, like, here's an event. Yes, it's a warm welcome hug. Come and join us, eat, have fun, listen to music, listen to speakers, get educated. But the reason that we're here is no animals were harmed. And we're saving the planet. And it's better for your health.
Right. You're helping people to sort of see some of the harsher realities, because it could be really depressing, to see what's going on in the world. But if you have sort of this bubble of, I guess, kindness around you, or people that you can relate to, it doesn't have to be kind. I mean, just fun people that you like to hang out with, that are also interested in these things. It really helps you kind of, I know we're social creatures, and so we follow what our friends do. As you can see with masks, the research is the same with veg things. So I think the more that we can have really cool social events and kind of communities, the better we're going to be.
Agree 100%.
Stronger.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. And then, everyone just has to chill out within the movement.
What's that?
Everyone just has to chill out within the movement. It's okay. We can all kind of feel a little differently about this or about that, or how we go about what we do. My way isn't better than your way. We all have our ways. It's okay. We don't need to tell you that it's wrong, just so everyone knows. It's good, because we're all moving forward in some way or some manner to where we'll have a more sane and humane world for all creatures and humans,
Yeah,
and
totally.
included in there.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think there are more helpful and less helpful ways of doing things, right? And I think we see this in activism across the board. Like there's always going to be different ways that people, especially with activists, because we have strong ideas about things. But I think the bottom line, it seems to be the bottom line is shaming doesn't work, usually supporting people where they're at and trying to, showcase some things maybe they hadn't thought of, within the context of a greater conversation. And I compare it to kind of like, I guess, neighborhood engagement, thinking about my neighbors. Say somebody does something that you don't like or whatever. And, some people, would call the cops or, something like that. And of course, that could get somebody killed, obviously, if you're a person of color. So that's dangerous. But instead, you should know your neighbor, right? Like you should know your community. You should be able to talk to them and not just go to your neighbor when you need something, but actually be there for each other, and get to know what their hopes are for the neighborhood and not just impose your own. And I think the same's true with veg activism is getting to know the person who's, maybe interested or could be interested in moving to more plant-based after seeing, especially now with COVID and seeing all of the relationships between how we treat animals and confine them and these diseases, but also how cruel it is. I think that's, those are similar beasts, basically, is how you treat other people.
No, agree, 100%. So let's kind of pivot over to music.
Speaking of, yeah.
Right? It's pretty cool that, you and your husband, Rob, are beloved binge. And you've gone international, which was really cool because you took a cruise ship across the ocean to get to Europe, which I actually looked at and went, that was like so smart.
Yeah, before COVID.
Yeah, way before COVID. Yes,
they did have a lot of sanitizer though. It was that was fun. We've been in the band for about 20 years, and the name started after we got married in 2002. And we were traveling through LA, and just it occurred to me how much people like their binges, including me, like binging on cake or whatever. We love our binging and that, the factory farm system and just the excess that we have. And so that's kind of where the name came from. I would probably change it slightly now because people always think it's beloved bitch. But that's kind of true. That's kind of true too. So it's fun. It's one of those things like, and I think, I know a lot of vegan musicians that, it's nice to have other interests too, outside of just you as an activist. Like here's you as a musician and you're a full person. And I think part of the battle we as vegans have is just the name and sort of people associating it with people that are angry. And I still see that on TV shows. And another op-ed that I haven't placed was called Hey Hollywood, and it was just basically asking them at that time to consider revising their stereotypes. And I named a bunch of vegan people that I knew and how multifaceted they were and how many interests they had. And but it's an easy, low-hanging fruit, with comedians and things like that. They'll say something about a vegan, and it's funny. But I notice it's getting less chuckles than it used to. Good sign. But yeah, so I think that there's a lot of things like that we just need to consider as we're moving forward. Oh, music, yeah, music. It's fun. Yeah. What was the question? I haven't even had a drink today. No drinks. Yeah, so we, interestingly, during COVID, we did just publish a song about bugs, actually. But other than that, we haven't been as active as we were in the past year. Mostly been working on the writing, and also Robbie my husband was working on renovating a home. And also the comment series, we're continuing that. We did one on masks, and the first one we did was on vegan mayonnaise and sort of the lawsuit and the battles that happen. And it was kind of, I guess, a humor comedy piece in 30 minutes of acting out actual comments from online articles as characters. And so we toured with that, and that was fun. And the masks one is similar. And so just kind of addressing people's sort of unwillingness to wear a mask initially and things like that. So we have another one that I haven't published yet that's on fake meat. So the idea.
Sorry, that's the little one. It's dog number 2. I think actually what is there might be a groundhog outside, and she goes crazy when she's the groundhog. So and that's that or a neighbor or nothing. There's no way to know. But that's Franny.
Or you need to evacuate. Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead, sorry.
No. Yeah, so the comments is just a fun way to, so the latest one that I need to finish and release is on fake meat. And so this idea of what's real and how people love just, fake meat, as if it's not real food, which it is.
Right.
So it's an interesting topic, and I hope to release that one in the next few months.
Oh, that's really cool. And if people don't know about the mayo thing, it has to do with has to do with Target, right? It has to do with some weirdness about it being called mayo, because mayonnaise in the world of, I guess, Hellman's is egg, and you can't call it unless it's made from eggs. And it's like, well, yeah, now what is it, a non-dairy spread? So whatever. And Hellman's has their own vegan mayo now. So go figure.
Yeah, that was like the end to the story. There was a whole build up to that, and it's interesting because the naming thing. And I did have an op-ed out in the Philly Inquirer about labels, and this idea that them saying that we need to be careful with our labels was kind of crazy because their labels are so misleading. Whether it's cage free or whatever it is. But recently I saw that Miyoko's won the case about her products calling
for
them
butter.
cheese.
Yep.
Yeah, it was butter. Yeah.
It's butter.
And so good thing. But yeah, it's kind of crazy the lengths that the industry will go to. And so I'm seeing both things. It seems like the industry is also willing to, sometimes partner and create plant-based meats because they're seeing that's the future. And so there's such an increase and an uptick in how many people are buying them now, plant-based meats. So and then you also see sort of the last kind of death kicks, hopefully, from them as well. So it's probably to be expected.
Yeah, I don't know if we're going to see as many lawsuits like that anymore because they all, I don't know who doesn't have a plant-based butter now. I don't know who doesn't have a plant-based mayo. I don't know who doesn't have a plant-based meat. When Smithfield jumps into the game, then it's mainstream.
Right. Exactly.
Why have a lawsuit when you've joined the team? Like, you've come over and you said, you know what? Let's go make money over there because clearly people want this. So let's jump into the pool.
Exactly. And I think what's going to be important and interesting to look at as we go forward is just all of these, how COVID's brought up all these issues of injustice in the workplace and how people are treated, especially like so-called essential workers. And so, how can we create this system going forward in an ethical way for, both humans and obviously animals by not using them, but also like the workplace being somewhere that people feel compensated and safe and treated well, things like that. So I think it's a big opportunity as we go forward.
Yeah, definitely. And the fact that the workers in a meat factory farm plant place became essential during this pandemic is absolutely horrendous because just if you don't know about the workers in the factory farms, they typically are immigrants, they typically are poor, they typically have PTSD because you couldn't go and kill animals all day and not go home and have some triggers, and they don't get paid well. So you've got immigrants, poor, not paid well, PTSD, and that's their lives. And why do they work the jobs? Because they might be the only job around and they need to put food on their table to feed their family. And it might be the only place they can get hired, think immigrants. And,
Totally.
Yep.
Yeah. And it's ironic because of, the current dictator in chief, and, his sort of thing about the border and keeping people out. But yet these are the people, undocumented oftentimes, that are fueling these systems because they can take advantage of them and they can pay them like nothing. And also they feel like they probably can't, report things because they will get, deported. So so it's, the whole system is really tied up into that. So it's really important as consumers that we don't support that.
Exactly. And, you can just stop eating animals. That in itself will, knock off, a whole bunch of check marks. Yeah. And, a whole bunch of categories, too. Planet, health, animals, other people, efficient. Right? It's incredibly efficient and, not too difficult to do. And we're here to help. Just, start off Meatless Mondays and then work your way towards and there's so many like Plant Pure Nation has the 10-day kickoff, and so many, and Vegan Outreach I think has another like step-by-step program to help people become vegan, plant-based, whatever you want to do. And of course we're all here to help if you need any help. I'm sure you can reach out to either of us any way that you can, that we would totally help you, because that, I know that's in your nature as well.
Yeah, no, totally. Anything to sort of get to that place where on my deathbed, at least factory farming's gone, you know. But yeah, it's definitely something that so many organizations are focusing on. Mercy for Animals, and then I know the Humane League has some great campaigns where, you know, they're working on at least improving, kind of working with the corporations to have those big numbers of animals that are impacted by the changes that they make. So yeah, there's a lot going on, which is really encouraging. And I don't know if I need to say any wrap-up comments.
I was just going to go there. I was going to say, yeah, if anyone wants to reach out to you or find you or listen to your music or read your writing, how would they do that?
Thank you. Yeah. So I'm on Medium, and that's my name. So at Eleni Vlachos, and also You Big Talker is my blog. It's all one word, YOU Big Talker. And that's also my Twitter handle, and Instagram is Eleni Binge, and the band is Beloved Binge on Instagram and Facebook too, I believe. So yes, reach out. I'm on TikTok too, but not very active there. And I'm sure all of you missed when Rob and I live streamed our backgammon game on Twitch. I think it was very exciting moments there that were missed by everyone. But anyway, yeah, that's the main places. And thank you again so much for doing this and bringing people together to talk about these things and just getting all these different perspectives. It's really been cool to look through some of your archives too.
Oh, thank you so much. And you know, I will get to Philly soon, and I'll visit my nephew, and we'll definitely get together once I'm willing to like be around people and actually do that. It will happen, because I want to see my nephew as well.
That would be awesome.
And he's your neighbor. So, yeah. And then, you know, thank you so much, because this was great. Like we said before we went live, I don't know if we've ever spent 30 minutes without a million other people around actually having a conversation. So true. I really appreciate this very much.
Yeah, thank you. And thanks everybody for tuning in. It means a lot.
Yeah, have a great day. And everyone, I'm going to do some close up. And bye, Eleni. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
So everyone, thank you so much for watching and joining us today. I just want to let you know that we're back on next week, because it's Labor Day weekend, so be safe and be smart and wear your mask and social distance this weekend so we don't increase our numbers all over the country and people don't have to die for this virus. But next week on Thursday and on Saturday at 4 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, we have our next talks, which will be Sean Stratton is, I'm pretty sure, next Saturday. And that's going to talk about the International Vegan Film Festival. And then on Thursday, Jessica from LA, who does the LA Street Fair, Vegan Street Fair, she's joining us. So that would be pretty cool to have another organizer on to talk about everything that's going on and what we're doing to deal with this. So remember, shop virtualvegfest.com. Follow us. Our contest this month, donate to Pass the Buck, and you'll be entered to win a Sun Warrior prize pack. Every dollar goes to the Plant-Based Network this month. And then if you like our pages, Virtual Veg Fest on Facebook or on Instagram, like the pages, you can win a prize from Follow Your Heart or Crafters Organics or Hodo Foods. So that'd be really neat. And I'm working on some others. So everyone, have a great weekend. Wear your mask over your nose, under your chin. Don't forget to mail in for your ballot. Please vote. Do whatever you have to do. But however you're going to do it, get an early ballot, absentee ballot, whatever state you're in, whatever country you're in, voting is important. Otherwise, we'll see you soon. Bye.